my mom is really good at. So she didn't teach me my love for math, but she taught me not to be afraid of things. So yeah, I think every time when somebody said like, "Oh, math is so hard," I was like, "Nothing is hard. Nothing is impossible. And if you need something to get it done, like I needed math to do my project." And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I think it was like my sheer love for things that was like math is nothing, math is just a tool. Like if you want to do imaging, like it's a tool, you don't have to be afraid of it. And I think that like whole fearlessness comes from her, is that if you love something, like don't be afraid of anything you have to do for that like particular thing. Like my mom is a single mother, so like she loved us, and that's why she was able to do a lot of things in like Pakistan society for us. So I think that was the whole mentality that okay, like it wasn't like I'm not Galileo or somebody who was like, okay, like math is my thing. It was just that I loved doing things, I loved making an impact, and I knew not to be afraid of whatever came in the way to like doing what I love.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my honest answer. I don't know if you're expecting something like
No, I mean,
like I dreamt of like solutions of mathematics.
So it was Pi Day the other day, and you're at MIT. Were there all these people going 3.14?
Oh, I hate Pi Day.
Yeah. It's like a thing. Like, isn't there some competition about who can go like
the
50 digits of pi or whatever?
Sure, but you don't have to do that to be like a mathematician. Again, that's like I think memorization.
The calculator has a pi button.
Exactly.
So,
So you don't need it. Yeah, I think that's just like I think when people like something, they can do it. But like I don't think that shows your like mathematical ability. That's just like how much can you learn. And if you really want to learn, have you heard of the memory palace technique? Like if you want to be like, okay, I have memorized like 20 digits of pi. So this memory palace technique is like, whatever, like, so think of a route that you like go through. So maybe like from your house to this office. And you can start placing those digits at like particular locations and just visualize those like every day in that. So like, so this works with the associative memory in your brain. So you already know the route now. As you visualize like different digits there in a sequence, you'll learn how to like memorize that. So that's just a memory feed. It's not a math thing. Yeah. So you can totally learn it.
This is great.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you can be like, I'm so cool, I know all this.
Right. I'm just memorizing pi.
Lemon pie.
Yeah. So some of your work involves robotics, artificial intelligence. We are in the transportation business with maritime and with air travel, and quite recently cars and buses. Do you have any predictions about any of these areas? You know, are we going to have flying cars, or is everyone going to get rid of their car? Like anything like that?
So, I honestly don't believe that much in predictions. I think I believe in like making the future instead of predicting it. But yeah, I think there are a lot of big companies who want to make like self-driving cars, who want to do a lot of like, so transportation has always changed, and I think it is like keep evolving. But again, how you want that change to happen is like for example, if you ask me to predict, I'm going to predict a future where like you have like climate-friendly transportation systems. You have more like public transportation. Like one of the reasons I love Cambridge is because or Boston area is because of the T system you have there. It's like environmentally friendly. It's people get to be together. So yes, I think it'll change a lot, but I hope it changes in a way that's good, not just for the people, but also for like the environment. And yes, maybe you guys should look into space transportation because that's going to be big. People are
We're on it.
We have a space program at the Media Lab, so if you want to come and check
Absolutely.
it out. We're
Sign me
taking
up.
robots to space. Yeah. So that's something that you can look into.
I'm in.
John and I will go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome to come check out the space at any time. Like we have everything from Legos to robots.
I'm
to
good with the Legos.
I did want to bring it back to why we're here, which is Women's History Month. So I know you're not currently at Google, but recently Google published sort of what I'm calling a diversity report card for 2018. It shows some growth in the percentage of female employees. So they're at about 31% female employees, which I believe is very close to what we are here. But as a younger person, female, and an ethnic minority, I'm sort of wondering, how does diversity in the workplace affect you, and is it something that you think about on a regular basis?
So actually, I think, so this is a plug for Google. Google was honestly a very, very awesome place for me to be at. So I was working in their future of wearables team, and I think I was the only female software engineer for it was a small team, and initially I was the only female software engineer. And I was way younger than all of my colleagues, but they were super respectful, and not just oh, I'm going to mentor you because you're so young. It was also oh, I actually respect all your ideas, and I think I was actually going out of my way and innovating a lot of things, and they were really, really respectful. But I don't think that's something that happens everywhere. So yeah, I think diversity is honestly really important, especially I think at the Media Lab. Even at the Media Lab, we didn't have female grad students for a long time. And even right now, very honestly, it's not the most supportive environment. There are days when we're I just said what this male colleague said, why didn't you listen to me? But then I remember my physics professor at Mount Holyoke College used to tell me stories from her time as a graduate student at Harvard, and she was there were only 2 female grad students in her group. And she said I was also short, so in addition to being I was short. So she said, but me and my colleague, whenever my professor would listen to another male student and overlook what we had said, the other one would say but this is exactly what she said 5 minutes ago. So I think just being there for each other, I share my office with another female PhD student, and we have this ritual, we always hug each other once a day. Sometimes we don't even talk about work, but we know that we are there for each other. So yes, I think diversity impacts, and sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. But yeah, I think we need to have each other's back.
Yeah.
And I think my male colleagues are also really, really wonderful. They some of them recognize what's going on, sometimes they don't, but it's just an everyday thing.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
I think we have a couple of questions in the back.
I want to ask a question about your research work, but as an aside, I went to RPI, and March 14th is the biggest day of the year for them. I'm wondering, how do you deal with or think about some of the moods and emotions that, while they may not be optimal and you're happy all the time, but things like pensiveness or things of that nature, where it's not a bad thing to be, it's a learning experience. How do you think about that in your work?
Yeah, so I think emotions are something that have been dealt really wrongly in a lot of scientific literature. So they're sad is bad, or angry is bad, and they don't realize that all these emotions, they make a balance. You can't be happy all the time. So this is not a happiness booster pill or something that we're giving you. Like I said, I think my research is more about self-awareness. I think humans should have the ability to look within themselves and see what's going on. It's almost I often talk to my friends, they're okay, I have this pain, I'm going to take a painkiller. You shouldn't have to just, if your body is saying something to you, there's a reason behind it. If you have a backache, don't just take a painkiller, see if you have been doing something wrong to not take care of yourself. I think for the same emotions, again, I think my technology is more about like helping you, I think, be more accepting to those emotions. So like, this is like, we're not trying to like cure the symptoms as those medicines do. We're trying to like help you like see why things are happening. So if like there are days when you like feel bad periodically, like what happens during those days? Are you, or how can you fix it? Can you like, you can just sort of self-experiment. So if taking your dog out for a walk actually like helps you feel better, or whatever it is, I think it's just the journey of being able to look within yourself is something that I want to help people with. And it's not like a goal of like, okay, you have to be happy all the time. I think that's the worst possible state ever, because then that happiness just becomes a constant and you don't feel good about it. So if you want to look into it more, there's this thing called positive psychology, and this whole thing is about just being 10% better. And better doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm better. It can also be like, I learned something about myself today.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So did you say that you're working on a project that helps people with metacognition
That's
or awareness?
self-awareness, yeah.
Yeah. So that self-awareness, how does it work from a technology point of view? Because I understand from a psychology point of view, you can talk things out. But what is the technology that's helping that person?
So we're still working on the details of it, but the idea I started out with is like something, so humans have imperfect memories, right? We don't remember what we have done in the past few days, and so it's not just about having an imperfect memory, but also we develop biases when we can't remember things, right? And so the whole point of this device is, so there are two parts to this device. Is like, one is the activities you do, and the other one is like how you feel internally, and it can be your physical or emotional state. So this is basically like connecting your activities to your internal state. So like, I do X, I feel Y. I do like Z, I feel like this thing.
But what is connecting those two thoughts? What is the technology that's...
Machine learning.
Machine
Machine learning. So we have a lot of sensors. So I have an ear-worn wearable device. So it has a little tiny camera as small as like a button or something. So you can wear it. It's also tracking your heart rate. And it has like on-device machine learning. So almost like an iPod you can plug on your like clothing. And so it's processing what you're doing. So like, it can't read your thoughts. I wouldn't want it to read your thoughts, but you can talk to it. So it's a device so it has a microphone, so you can talk to it and record. So like, for example, if you are somebody who wants to improve their diet, because I think diet has a lot of implications on a lot of things. So you can talk to it and say that like, okay, next time I'm about to eat something, remind me to be mindful, remind me to feel what I'm doing, or like remind me this thing that my mother said. So like, so this has a camera, it can like detect in real time that you have some sort of food and you're eating it, and then it'll talk to you. Or it can be like, with respect to smoking, that next time I'm about to like smoke a cigarette, then like remind me this. And I think the main thing we want to remind people is, like, you know about like talk therapy and self-talk, it can really help you. And I think the biggest thing I want to help people get over is like this whole like learned helplessness thing. I don't know how many of you have like seen that, heard of that experiment, but if you get a chance, look it up. Usually there's like a perceived ability and there's a real ability. I think people have much lower perceived ability. So just reminding themselves that not just be mindful, but just reassuring that they can do it. And usually like this is something that I think therapists do, but why do you have to go to them after like 2-3 weeks? I think like you can get a self-help book, but you want something in the moment with you. Like you want that voice in the moment, because like when something happens, I think that like you forget about what your therapist said or like all the self-help books. Like you're just in the moment. So I'm guilty of stress eating. So like I want something to remind me in that point is to just like, hey, relax, it's gonna be okay. You don't have to like eat your emotions out.
How do you program it to know that, so that you're not programming it to say something other, like go ahead and have that ice cream? How do you program it with a positive?
So we have like an app that programs it.
I see.
Yeah. So you can also program it yourself. So you can say, so it's not like we make the app with like specific data that this is the only thing you can say. You can talk to the device and record your own messages and be like, and it can play different things at that time. Yeah.
I think you just sold like 50.
Yeah.
I can like have you as test subjects. You're gonna be doing a lot of testing, so you can like have it in your life. And I would love for you to like give me your feedback, because I think like I'm not doing it to publish papers. I'm actually doing it because like I called it PAL for a reason, as I wanted it to be an extension of myself that can be there with people. Like I would love to go and say like, hey, it's gonna be fine, but I can't be there with you.
Wow.
That's great. Yeah.
So in the work environment, we often make distinctions between hard skills and soft skills. So by how you describe your work and your passion, it doesn't seem that there's a definitive line. So how do you think about that, or what are your suggestions for us as we continue to have this conversation about what's required to innovate and to be better team members, et cetera? How do you think about these terms and how we otherwise talk about it?
I think I would just say break all the rules. Like there are no rules about like how you should do things. Like somebody might tell you like, okay, you need more math to do it this way. Maybe you think like, no, I actually need to go in the field to do something. I think like all these lines are very fluid. So I think the more you think about them and try to constrain yourself with them, like the worse it's gonna be. Like why does it matter if it's a hard skill or soft skill? You just need to do it, right? I don't know, this is how I think about it. Maybe it's very naive, but it's like the more I think about it, there are days when I'm not just like, not even like doing technical work, but I'm just trying to make sure I have a team of really, really good people I can do good work with. And like that's another thing that contributes to my project. And the team I work with, I tell them that like, I think my project is the thing that matters the most in my life, but you guys are even like above it, because like I have to care about them. So is that a soft skill? Is that a hard skill? Is that like management? Is that strategy? I don't know. It's just the right thing to do.
My question is about math. So I have a 10-year-old in the 4th grade, and when he comes home with his homework, I have to email the teacher, like, can you send me the answers first before you send me the homework, because I can't figure it out. Because math is not a great subject for me either, but I'm always on Google. So if we don't know anything, we just Google it, like how do you do whatever. But when they're going through the process of how you get it, it's still like foreign to me. So it's like, how can I better explain it to my 10-year-old, pretty much? So like math, like we're doing fractions.
Right. So it's sad how I think schools operate. Like I told you I have a nephew, and I tell my sister like I'm gonna homeschool him because schools are hard. And I think she's like terrified of me because like once when I was teaching her, like I made her cry. So she's like but I think whenever I am teaching myself somebody, I just think of it as me relearning something. So like think of like how you would explain it to yourself, and then like explain it to your kid instead of like, okay, this is how it should be done. So like you can take him to the kitchen and like explain him what fractions are. How do you break different things? Fraction is basically like dividing things into portions, right? This is how sharing happens. So you can teach him fractions with like sharing. Just give him more examples and get him involved with activities that involve that concept. Because I think math is usually like it's sad that math is treated as an abstract concept. Where like if you are a musician, I don't know, do you have any musicians in the room? So you can talk about like fractions in terms of music. So like I'm not a musician, so I don't know, but like where you pluck a chord can actually change what like note it creates. So like fraction is all that. Or you can think about how like fraction like plays a role in your life.